Detroit, a city known for its grit and resilience, has a rental market rife with scams and neglectful landlords. We're diving into Detroit rentals, where affordable housing can turn into a tenant's nightmare. Nearly 1 in 3 Detroit renters have faced landlord fraud or abuse. A staggering number of Detroiters are facing a housing crisis within a housing crisis. From fake listings to landlords who vanish, the scams are endless, and the living conditions some landlords offer are shocking. But fear not, because knowledge is power. Let's talk about the chronic case of neglect plaguing Detroit's rental properties. We're not talking about a little dust bunny here or a leaky faucet there. We're talking about issues that would make even the most hardened contractor cringe. Imagine, if you will, ceilings that rain plaster, plumbing that's more rust than pipe, and heating systems that wouldn't warm a penguin in Antarctica. These aren't just inconveniences, folks. They're serious health hazards that can put tenants' well-being at risk. But what's even more frustrating is that many landlords seem to treat these problems with the same urgency as choosing a new brand of cereal. It's a classic case of out of sight, out of mind. Except in this case, the out of sight part is happening right under their noses, and the out of mind part is costing tenants their health and safety. It's no secret that Detroit has been grappling with a high eviction rate for years. But what often gets lost in the statistics are the human stories behind those numbers. We're talking about families forced out of their homes, seniors uprooted from their communities, and individuals left scrambling for shelter, all because of a system that often seems rigged against them. Now, I'm not saying all evictions are unjustified. There are certainly cases where tenants haven't held up their end of the rental agreement. But far too often, evictions are used as a weapon, a way for unscrupulous landlords to exploit the system and line their pockets at the expense of vulnerable tenants. It's a vicious cycle that perpetuates poverty and instability, leaving countless Detroiters feeling like they're just one missed rent payment away from being out on the street. Section 4, From Dream Home to Nightmare. Tales from Detroit's trenches and stories of landlord negligence and scams in Detroit are as common as potholes on a Michigan highway. Sarah, a single mother, thought she'd found the perfect apartment for her and her 2 young children. The landlord promised a freshly renovated unit with all the bells and whistles, but Sarah's dream turned into a nightmare with a leaky roof, faulty wiring, and a rodent problem. Michael, a retiree, fell victim to a rental scam. He found a listing for a charming bungalow that seemed too good to be true. After wiring a deposit, Michael discovered the landlord was a con artist. These stories are not isolated incidents. In Detroit rentals, tenants often fend for themselves. Section 5, Dodging the landlord, landmines, red flags to watch out for. Navigating the Detroit rental market can feel like walking through a minefield, but there are ways to spot those red flags and avoid stepping on a landlord landmine. First and foremost, if a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is. That suspiciously low rent, or that move-in special that's sweeter then a pecan pie should set off alarm bells. Another red flag to watch out for is poor communication. If a landlord is evasive, unresponsive, or makes promises they don't keep, that's a major cause for concern. And never, ever hand over any money without a signed lease agreement. That document is your shield and your sword in the rental arena. So make sure you read it carefully and understand every word before you sign on the dotted line. Section 6, renting with your eyes wide open. Survival guide for Detroiters. So, how can you, dear renter, protect yourself from the perils of the Detroit rental market? Knowledge, my friends, is your best defense. Before you even think about signing a lease, do your homework, research potential landlords and properties thoroughly, check online reviews, talk to current and former tenants, and don't be afraid to ask tough questions. Don't be afraid to walk away from a bad deal. There are plenty of fish in the sea, or in this case, apartments in Detroit. And if you do encounter a problem, document everything. Keep records of communication, take photos of any issues, and report serious violations to the city. Remember, you have rights as a tenant, and you don't have to tolerate neglect, abuse, or illegal behavior from a landlord. Section 7. Trust your gut, protect your back. The final word on Detroit rentals. The Detroit rental market can be a tough nut to crack, but it's not an impossible one. By staying informed, being proactive, and trusting your instincts, you can find a safe, decent, and affordable place to call home. Remember, knowledge is power, and in the jungle of Detroit rentals, a little bit of knowledge can go a long way. So, go forth, dear renters, and may your leases be ironclad, your landlords be reasonable, and your apartments be free of unwanted critters. And if all else fails, there's always the option of building a tiny house on wheels and becoming a nomad. Just make sure you check the parking regulations first. Like, share, and subscribe.